Hello, welcome back to 3D Drawing for Model Railway. In today's lesson I'm going to start to look at some of the underframe detail. Specifically I'm going to be looking at doing the V-hangers and the handbrake here. I'm going to do the V-hangers as separate parts because there's multiple V-hangers in several different places and they're not all symmetrical. So I'm going to create them as a separate part and then we can copy and paste them as and where they're required. Obviously with the handbrake being joined onto the side of the wagon as the same body as the wagon. So as we can see from this picture, the V-hanger starts just after the triangle filleted piece, comes down to sort of same height as the step, sort of the axle box there, and then back up, sort of joins just after where this little triangle piece is. So looking on Fusion, we're looking in this sort of area here. And my plan is to draw a sketch on, sketch on this side face here, and I'm going to create using the line tool. I'm going to select the position that I think sort of matches what we're looking at here. We can zoom in. So I'm going to start just after that position there. I'm going to come down like that, back up, and then I'm going to use the offset tool to offset those, what do we think, 0.4 millimeters probably looks okay. Should be able to coincidence that, no we can't, so we'll have to draw a line from there up. As long as you've got those parallel lines, you know they're matching. Do the same on that side. That's not where I want it to snap to. And I'll undo that. There we go. Okay, so if we look at angle, we're probably going to need this to be a bit further across. So if we can dimension that to that position there, I'm going to just reduce that to 0.05. And then if we look at angle in there, if we go for 70 degrees, do the same on that side, 70 degrees. Okay, the distance between them, that should be matching from there to there. And it's probably going to want to be rounded off on the bottom edge, so we can add a fillet between those two. Let's round that off by 0.35, I think it looks okay. And we can dimension the length. Dimension that length there. Height wise, I think I'm not far off there, so we're at 2.7. And if we dimension between these, 0.4, between those, there's 0.4 as well. Everything should be symmetrical then. Position and looks okay. If we select that inner profile, extrude, and it's going to come back into the wagon, generating a thickness. I'm going to go 0.6. I do want a bit of strength there. Again, as I said, I'm creating that as a new body as well, so I'm keeping that as a separate part. Okay, so the next part I'm going to produce is the locking pin here on the handbrake, so sort of in this position. If we look, we're just sort of level with where the WI sort of starts, so at that position. Creating a sketch. I'm going to create the sketch again on the bottom edge of the sole bar here. I'm just going to use a rectangle tool. So height is just below the top of the wagon and to just below the axle here, so I'm going to go that position there. something like that. I'm going to dimension this up. So we go 0.6 as the thickness, height, might actually come a little bit shorter than that, so maybe 6.5. Okay, and then we'll put dimensions from there. So the top edge to the bottom of the wagon, so 0.15, and from the side to go to the end of the wagon here, and then buffer beam there, 6.9 looks okay to me. Selecting all three of the profiles to make that rectangle, and then I'm going to extrude. I'm going to do a two-way extrusion here. The inside, I'm going to go and make sure that's a join, all the way through to the back of the wagon, maybe not quite so far as that. 0.5 should be fine because that'll fill into the inside of the sole bar. I'm going to come out maybe 0.3. No, it needs to be more than that because the handbrake needs to go into it. So come forward 0.5. I'm not going to worry about cutting the middle out where the handbrake goes up and down in it because you'll need the strength. Okay, now the handbrake itself is sort of bent. It obviously sticks out front here and then goes back at an angle to meet up with the bottom of the V hanger. So I'm going to use the Loft tool really to be able to do that, put that bend in. So we'll start by drawing the bottom part really. I'm going to join that attached to the V hanger but as a new body. I'm just going to come out just a small amount before I put the step into it. So I'm going to create a sketch on the front of the V hanger here. And I'm going to start by just picking a circle, finding the midpoint. Yeah, we'll go with 0.7, I think I'm happy with that. Actually, no, I'm not going to do a circle. I'm going to use a 3-point rectangle. And I'm going to select, let's have a quick look position-wise. I'm going to aim up towards here. So let's start. Try not to get it to snap or anything there. Aim, zoom out a bit, aim towards where that comes, try not to get it to snap. Okay, so I'm aiming towards where the spring starts there. I'll just dimension that up. Dimension is at the wrong angle, delete that. Dimension back in, so we'll go 1.5 millimeters. Sorry, let me clean this up. Get rid of that. That's 1.5 millimeters. Height. And we'll go 0.5. Do the relative height from there to the top. 2.25. And from there we'll go to the edge of the bracket there, 3.5. We'll want that to there to then lock that into place. That's it. Okay, so we've done that end. Okay, so the next part is we'll come across this horizontal bit that runs along the bottom edge of the sole bar. So again, this edge here, so finish that sketch. Just going to extrude. In fact, actually, we need to round that end off. So we're going to put it on these two corners. Just going to drag those in to 0.25. And then we'll select those profiles and extrude that, given a thickness of 0.5 millimeters. I want that to be a new body as well, because I don't want it joined to the V hanger there. Okay, so we'll create a sketch up on the bottom of the sole bar here for this part, so it comes just short of that triangle piece and back slightly beyond the vertical. So creating a rectangle, so sort of that size. Define the height, 0.5 millimeters. Yep, looks okay. And we'll define the length as 4.1. Okay, it then goes up at an angle and then comes back down, heading towards that part. So if we come up at an angle like this, how does that look? Yeah, that's fine. So I'm going to define the angle there, go for 60 degrees just to make it easy, and the length 1.8. Draw a line that comes up. You see how I've got the blue lines, double blue lines to show that I'm parallel, and the dotted line to show that I'm locked into position there. Okay, and then I need to aim down towards. Yeah, I'm going to come down towards this part. So if I aim like that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the dimension in on that. So 130. Needs a bit more. Let's go 131. I'm not worried too much because when the loft will fix any discrepancies there. And lengthwise, so we need to find out how far down for the kink. So it comes down, looking at this one, that's the kink here. So just to the end of the springs. So if we shorten this up to 6 millimeters, yeah. And then we can draw another line that's parallel to this one, comes to the same position. And what we're going to have to do is draw a line that's 90 degrees to that. And with 0.5 millimeters in thickness. And then that line will then be stopping at the same place as this one. Okay, and probably find that angle. That closes that all off. 0.5, 0.5 goes up and down. Okay, so now we need to select all of these profiles and extrude them forwards. 0.5 millimeters. I'm going to tell it to join. Click on OK. Actually, I'm going to edit that. And I'm going to tell it to be a new body to start with because I don't want this part in when I'm joining these two with a loft. So now if I turn the main body off, you see how I've got the handbrake, I've got clean clean square here. This is the V hanger is a separate part, so then what I can do is loft between that surface and that surface, and it will take up any of the angle differences between them. As you see, it should have a kink in them potentially. It's actually pretty straight. Okay, if we bring the body back in, you can see how that all needs to move out slightly because it's now clashing through this. So we can fix that by going back in the history on this. Okay, so I need to make this a little bit thicker here. So we'll come forward, say 0.8 millimeters. That's gone the wrong edge. Let's go edit that again. 0.5 on that one, 0.8 on that one. That's it. Okay, this handbrake now needs to move forwards. So if we remove the loft, select the handbrake body, move, rotate to the left, and then we can slide this across. So 0.3 millimeters. Still sticking on this slightly, but I don't want to come too far out away from the side of the wagon, to be fair. The biggest problem is because we're going for a thickness of 0.5 for the strength, that's why it's clashing. So you know, I'm going to go with that. It will have the kink in now when I put the loft back in, of 0.3 millimeters. So select those two profiles again. Left on, yeah, we've got a kink on it now. I'm happier with that. Turn the body back on. It still clashes with part of the suspension, but there's not a lot we can do about that unless we reduce the thickness of the handbrake. I'm going to reduce the thickness on this back surface though, on the lower part, if I can, by just rotating around, selecting those two profiles and then extruding back forwards 0.3 millimeters, which is the bit we've added on the front here. It won't look quite so thick now. But it'll still retain some of the strength. Okay, that's good, happy with that. So that's the handbrake added in. I might actually just reduce the height slightly of it. Because I think that's down with the bottom of the WI, which it shouldn't be. So it's going to come back in the history to that vertical part, edit the sketch and change the height. Still a bit too much. I'm actually going to come all the way down to 6. Okay, so let's just check. We've got handbrake part, and we've got the wagon and the V hanger. So I'm going to turn the V hanger off now, and then I'm going to combine the handbraking with the rest of the wagon. So using body 31 as our target, body 86 as our tool. Those two should join, and then we're keeping the V hanger as a separate part. Okay, so that's where we're up to the moment. The rest of the wagon is going to be picked up on copying, especially with the things with the V hanger, but I think at this point we're pretty much done with all the symmetrical parts for the wagon. It's just going to be a case of copying over and filling in some of the underframe detail, which I'll come back on the next episode to. Thanks for watching.